4, I'm going to teach you how to build your scope baseline. Now, to review, you have your signed charter signed by the sponsor, remember? And you've put all that work into developing your how-to plans, your project management plans. Now you know you need to define the nitty-gritty details for your project. More specifically, you need to nail down your official scope, your schedule, and your cost. And we're going to call these the project baselines. And there's 3 of them: scope, schedule, and cost. So you start where you should start. What will you produce and what will you not produce? That's the big question on everybody's mind. We're going to call that the scope baseline. Now, you got some things to start with. You got some things to work on, all right? You got the charter. What did that provide? It provided you the high-level scope delivered by the sponsor, the person that really matters. Now you know you got to take that and you got to figure out how to get the laser-focused details that will deliver what the big boss wants, okay? And you got to get them approved by the big boss before you got the team running. That's the game we're playing. Now, I know you and the team, you're eager to get going, to prove yourself, to solidify this scope baseline, but you got a little problem. Let's talk it through. You might not know it yet. Everybody, their brother, their sister, their grandma, their uncle has an idea and an opinion about what your project should deliver, could deliver, and will deliver, okay? And they're all pestering you with their individual desires. So what do you do, okay? Well, this little process right here, we're creating our project baselines, and what we need to do is follow the yellow brick road for scope management. We need to follow these 3 processes. They're going to help us transform our high-level requirements and all the potential requirements in the world into a clear, objective scope. That's what we're trying to do. So, what is a product scope? If we're talking all around it, we better define it. Well, a product scope is the features and the functions that characterize a product, service, or result. So I bet if you were out there and you looked at this little car over here, it's a middle market car, looks safe, looks, a great car. If you could write down the features and the functions, you could probably do it, right? It's got this kind of like engine in it. It's got this ability to stop. It's got power windows, all this jazz. It's got all those features and functions. So that's what we're going for, the product scope. Now, let's walk through those 3 steps to get to that scope, all right? It's going to help guide us along the path. Now, number 1, we got to collect requirements, bring them in. Define scope's all about making a decision. We're going to do this, we're not going to do this, and here's why. Number 3 is taking what we are going to do and bursting it out in a good way, decomposing it, we're going to call it, okay, to define the super duper double nitty gritty details of what we're going to do. Enough so that we can build a schedule and a cost baseline off of that, and they all work together. We'll talk it out. So let's start with collecting requirements. Now, step 1, collecting requirements, is all about creating a prioritized list of all the potential, I underlined it, potential project requirements. Now, emphasize here, prioritized list of all potential. So, as we think about this, like I said, everybody's got an idea. You got them yourself. You want to accumulate all these ideas, these requirements, these specifications. You're not committing at this point. All right? You got to be very careful not to commit. People are going to get upset. You're going to bite off more than you can chew. It's not going to be aligned with the big boss, all that stuff. So right now, fill the bucket, fill the list with all the ideas. Accumulate before committing. We're accumulating right now. All right? So let's nail down another term, product requirement. Well, what is a requirement? Well, a product requirement is any condition or capability that must be present in the finished product to satisfy a business need. So as we start pulling these requirements in, that's where, what are the conditions? What are the capabilities that we must have at the end to make something better or solve a problem, whatever it is? So if we needed to go out there, and we do, and collect all the requirements, how could we do it? Where could we find these ideas? How could we find them? Well, there is a long list of different ways. Each one provides its own positives and negatives, and you got to figure out which one works for your neighborhood, okay? The first thing we could do is we could just brainstorm. We got the team, we got the sponsor, we got some subject matter experts. Get in a room, let's beat around some ideas and get it going, right? Creative problem solving, get a lot of idea generation rolling, right? Progressively and collaboratively discuss the ideas, different solutions, different approaches. Let's get them on the table. No idea is a bad idea. Throw them on the wall. Now, the key to this is we don't want to immediately judge and say, that's terrible, because you turn people off. Makes sense, right? And you don't want to evaluate them in super duper details. You're just getting them out, letting them bubble in a sense. Now, the benefits of this little process, first of all, it stimulates ideas and creativity really quickly. And you can build buy-in, you can build engagement through this process. It gets inclusivity, open-mindedness. Those are good philosophy things to push through. And you can get quick feedback on like where the areas of opportunities are, what people think about the different ideas, quick feedback and alignment to what we're doing. And a lot of times you just bump into new ideas you never thought, right? You discover unanticipated solutions. So that's number one. Number two, you could be a little bit different way to organize the facilitation of how you get ideas. It's called mind mapping. Now, look at that little picture that I'm showing. It's a visual tool. You can see it, right? I can see it, right? It starts with a central idea. In the middle, they got mind map, okay? But you'll have what you're trying to do. Cool economy car, whatever in the middle. It's the central idea, and it branches out. Each one of those little bubbles is something related to that cool economy car or whatever you're building, all right? And so as you branch out, it creates a web-like structure. Stuff related to the engine, stuff related to the braking, stuff related to the safety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the ideas start to bubble and work themselves out. Now, the cool thing about this is you can see the linkages. Like, oh, this idea, this requirement is related to that in some way, and you can talk about it. And it can help you identify gaps. We've done a lot of thinking about this, that, and the other. We haven't thought a lot about the safety features. Maybe that's a hole there. It brings your eyes and ideas there. And it can help promote communication. What do you think? How do you like it? What could you do? Why don't you guys think about this area? It's just a way to do that. It kind of organizes it. And it can help you think about like, hey, you talked about safety requirements. Like, I dig it, but that's a pretty big idea, bro. Like, why don't you break that? What's that mean? Is we talking about seat belts? We're talking about airbags? We're talking about like, a laser that stops the car? Like, what are you talking about? So you could break it on out. Helps it decomposing it, right? That's a mind map. So we laid out two. We're going to go to the third one. We're going through a lot of them, all right? So hang on. I'm going to summarize them. The third one's called a nominal group technique. Now, this is kind of cool. It's different, but I think you're going to like it. It's a structured method for brainstorming with a group, okay? Now, it has a distinct process. I'll walk you through it. What it does is it keeps the loudmouths of the room from dominating the room, okay? Which we tend to do, right? And it encourages feedback and participation from every party and facilitates a quick discussion. Yet again, loudmouth can't run the room, okay? So here's how it works. Everybody writes down their ideas silently, quietly. That's creepy that I just said it that way, but whatever. Silently, you write them down on a piece of paper, everybody, so that the loudmouth doesn't go blah, 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 blah. This is what I think, right? And then round robin, one by one, giving everybody their due. Share your ideas, get them out, right? We want to respect people. Then we have discussions about the ideas, non-judgmental, clean discussions. And from there, we all silently vote on what ideas we like best. So there's some silence in here, right? It's respecting opinion. It's not letting one person push the movement this way or that way. So we're voting and ranking on those. And then by that, we'll prioritize. We might go through a couple different iterations to get the ideas really flushed out and get the prioritization there. So that's called the nominal group technique. It's a pretty cool way. It's like a facilitated brainstorming with a purpose. Now, the next one is called benchmarking. And benchmarking is a process of comparing our organizations, the way we do things, to other organizations, other departments, whether inside or outside our organization, the way they do their processes, their performance, their products. We want to find those industry standards, those best practices. That's what we're looking for. The reason why we're doing this thing, we want to see the best practices, the new requirements, all these different things, find opportunities for improvement. We're trying to compare to open our eyes. That's what we're doing. Now, if you do it right, it can help you find proven solutions. If it already works over there, we can either just model and make it better for some features on our side, and it can help inform our strategic decisions. Once we start learning about what they do really well, we can say, man, they are best in class here. We either got to raise ourselves, or because we know what they do, let's find a way to take a step and add on top of that. So it's going to help inform our strategic decisions about how we lead our product or process. And obviously, through this, you're going to get a lot of ideas. You see it and you go, ooh, we can do it differently. We can do it better. We can do it whatever. A lot of innovation could stimulate from that. And it can help improve your competitive advantage as you start to say, we know what they do, we think what we can do, and it's going to make us unique. That'd be cool. Now, another way, it's not as hands-on as like going out looking at something, a survey. You all know what this is. It's a research method, right? Collect a bunch of data from predefined groups. The goal is to get that information in, get those insights of, the things that we're talking about. It could be like, online, like this guy's doing right here. Cool, he's filling out an online survey. Could be face-to-face. Hey, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? Could be over the telephone, paper questionnaire, whatever works in your environment. You have a predefined list of questions, bang, it's going out to your audience, all right? Some of the good stuff, the benefits, you can get a broad reach at a low cost. Bang, put it together, hit the button, send it out. Hope we get some turn back, right? Things come back. It can be fast. It can be anonymous, or you can have people sign their names so you can find, these are these leaner inners that we could go deeper with. Your decision on how you design it. You can have a standardized amount of questions. You don't want like, hey, I ask a question a different way to different people. I get different answers. There could be variation in that. In certain scenarios, you want them to answer the exact same question. So it's just how you organize it, right? It's quantifiable, it's comparable, all those things this method allows you to do. Now, if you want to get out of just like the blanket send and you want to bring them in, there's this thing called a focus group, all right? Like this picture shows, guys at the front of the table, people around it, chatting it up on specific things. It's a qualitative, not quantitative. Quantitative numbers, qualitative feel, opinion, those kind of things, this method. And it brings a small group of participants. They're gathered, they're picked out of a bigger population, and they're brought in for what they know or the perspective that they have. And we have a discussion with them. The facilitator leads it, right? On specific topics. That moderator leads the conversation. And the goal is to get their insights about their beliefs, their perceptions, their attitudes, all those things, because they know something and we're trying to understand it. So that's what a focus group is. And the good stuff from it, the benefits is you can get diverse perspectives. You can see it with your face and eyes and stuff, right? You can get deeper feedback by them explaining, tell me more, what do you think? All those things, you can draw it out as a facilitator. And you can learn not just from the words, but you can learn from the visual cues, the way they said it, the way they bristle up when they think about an idea or they just get excited about it. You can learn so much more and differently by seeing and being engaged with an individual in a focus group. And you can help validate those ideas. Like, what do you think about this? And you can just see how they react and how it, spawns ideas in their head. And you can help discover new ideas. Well, if you don't like that, what do you like? And they can throw it out there. So focus group are a really cool way to do things. Now, if we want to take the face-to-face kind of aspect and go one-to-one, we could do interviews. Now, we're going to have a structured or maybe semi-structured kind of relationship, this interview, with a subject matter expert, usually like the big boss or the engineering person or somebody who knows something or somebody on the floor, whatever it is, somebody who knows something that you want to kind of, pull from. So you're trying to gather the details, the specialized knowledge in what they have. And basically, your goal is to mine that genius, that experience, that perception that they own, okay? You're going to get a deeper, more comprehensive understanding. You can learn pretty quickly. Get your boots on the ground. Go see them. Go talk to them. Go get it going. Validate those assumptions. And also, when you go out and you ask someone their opinion, what does it do? Like, let me ask you, what do you think about this? If I were to say that, it says, well, this guy really wants to know, right? It's creating a connection. It's creating buy-in. That's a good thing. So strategically, you're not only learning, but you're building an advocate possibly, or you're finding an enemy, all right, that you can deal with as far as like our stakeholder approach. So it's an effective way to do that. Now, as we come toward the end, we have prototyping. Sometimes it's just best to build the thing in the basic format to figure out, will it fly, okay? Now, prototyping is creating a preliminary model or a version of a product or a solution, a process, whatever it is, so that you, the team, the stakeholders, whomever, can visualize it. They can feel it, they can touch it, they can see it, they can test it, they can refine it based off what they see. Before we build the full thing, let's see a prototype, a basic version of it. Sometimes ideas, when they get put into features, like we go, oh, it ain't exactly what I want, and I could only realize that because I saw it, okay? So the benefits are you get to see it, touch it, feel it, all right? So you get reduced misunderstanding. It's just what is there. So what do you think about what's there? It helps you cost save, right? So you don't spend all that stuff buying all the materials, all that production, all that time, when you can find out really quickly that they hate it or they love it and double down, all right? Now, you can also validate some technical feasibility kind of concerns. Like, can we build this? Well, if we start building it and it starts to work, then, okay, there's something there. You get fast feedback loops, and that's the goal in life. Faster feedback loops. I want to know that I'm ugly real quick so that I could probably maybe do something about it, all right? And it can encourage innovation. Once we see something working, then we can build on it requirement-wise, okay? And as we do that, all those things kind of combine to potentially a faster time to market, getting it out there. That's what we're trying to do, all right? So I'll say what you're not willing to say right now. That was a lot. That was a lot of ways to build in requirements, and I just threw them at you. For strategic reason, dude, because I want you to appreciate that you can draw requirements out in a lot of ways. You are smart, but you don't have to be the super duper double triple genius, right? You can leverage all these different methods and all these different people to draw out ideas and requirements, and you should do that. Do not operate alone, okay? So here's where we go. Let's think about it. Which methods have you used? And which methods might you want to try? This is a good way to learn, y'all, is to reflect. What have I used? What might I try? Let's think it through. Brainstorming. You ever done that? Could you do it better? How would you do it different? Mind maps. Try it out. That might be one you never used. Start doing the bubbly thing. Let's see how it goes. The nominal group technique. Yep. Benchmarking. If we go through, would it help us to go buy all our customers' products, to go look at it, to go tour their facilities, to go do those things? Could it help? Could we send out surveys? Could we do those? Maybe that's the only thing you're doing. And as you start to look at it, we just send surveys, and then now we realize that it's good, but it's incomplete, and we need to complement with these other ways. Who knows? Now, as we go in there, focus groups. Doesn't have to be fancy. Doesn't have to be done by some fancy organization. You can bring in, you can test, you can try these focus group techniques. You could do specific interviews, getting better connection, thinking about that side of it. Or you could start prototyping these little things, building little functional models, having somebody see, boom, boom, boom. Any of these work. So have you used it? Which might you try? Okay? Now, as you do this, whatever you choose, the ideas, the requirements, they're going to accumulate. Bloop, 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 bloop. They're going to fill a list. Now, first of all, it can be hard, to see the big picture. You're just stacked up with requirements whoa, I can't see the forest for the trees. One of the cool ways to do it is with an affinity diagram. And we've talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again. Affinity diagram is just a way, like this lady's doing right here, I think it's a lady, I'm not sure, is to visually organize the stickies, the requirements into groups, columns, little things so you can see what's related. Now, on these stickies, they didn't write anything down, so I don't know what they're doing it for, but we would have our requirements, in a sense, written down on there so we could see what's related to each. These are the ones related to safety. These are related to, the different features inside the vehicle, whatever it is. And it helps the team see the clusters, see the gaps, put their focus on developing more requirements or seeing overlaps that we have. Just cleans it up, all right? Affinity diagrams. Now, as you develop all those potential, right? I said potential. We're not tying ourselves to these things yet. Potential requirements. Where do you store them? We said we could put them on the wall to organize them with an affinity diagram, but we need some ways that's more official, right? We got two documents for you. One's called a requirements documentation document. It's duplicative in its name. And the other is called a requirements traceability matrix. So let's talk about this requirements documentation. What this is, it's a comprehensive document. We're talking big top to the floor, right? Comprehensive document used to record all the detailed descriptions for all your project requirements. Think top to bottom, right? Gives you clarity, provides alignment. This is everything we got. If it ain't on the list, we ain't even considering it, dude. All right? It gives you, with each of them, we got to have clear, objective success criteria. And we're going to use that once we select certain ones. We're going to use those objective criteria to validate on the back end. So you got to be prepared at the beginning with the acceptance criteria, or you're going to be hemming and hawing at the end, whether it's good or bad, because the team won't know the finish line, all right? Now, think about this as just a big, long Excel file. Requirement 1, all the details. Requirement 2, all the details, all the way down. Fill the list up, right? Okay? And as we fill that list up, we need a way to kind of organize it, because certain things group together. Requirements traceability matrix does that. So as this lady's looking there, requirements traceability matrix is like a table. All right, I'll show you a picture in a second. It's a document or a table that links the project requirements up and down to the deliverables that the requirements are inside of and how they satisfy, okay? So it's a simple method to help track, while you're building, have we done this? Have we satisfied this? Who's handling this, etc., as it goes through. might look something kind of like this. As we look at the requirements traceability matrix, look up at the top. It's got the deliverable A, B, C, D, whatever they are, right? The bigger deliverables. And on the left side, it's got requirements 1 through 9, right? And so what we might do is we might say, boop, which requirements satisfied inside of each deliverable? And so as we see, 1, 2, and 3 requirements are underneath A, deliverable A, chunk A, assembly A, whatever it is. B gets 4 and 5. 6, 7, 8 are within deliverable C. You see how it's organized? So we can, oh, I got it. They're there. They're inside of that. I got it now. All right. So, that was all collect requirements. Now we go into define scope. Think about where we are. Big, long list. All these ideas, all this engagement. People are waiting with bated breath. What are we actually going to do? Can't do it all. We don't have enough money. We ain't got enough time. What are we going to do? Here's where we define that. All right. So defining scope is a focused effort to prune that list of requirements into the essentials that the project will deliver. This is super important. Think of it as big, long, it's like an hourglass. Big down to tight right here. That's where we are. We're making decisions, okay? Now, how do you choose what you're gonna do? Pick a name out of a hat, random, throw a dart at a wall? No, we gotta have some science to this, right? First of all, there's gonna be a lot of competing proposals, completing requirements like option A versus option B. We could go either direction. You got to make a decision. They talk about alternatives analysis. You're researching. We could go A, we could go B. What's the ups and downs of each? An alternative tells you like which one is most feasible and which one is optimal, given the constraints, the goals, all the systems that you have going on, which one pays best for you. So you're looking at it. That's going to be one way to help make a decision between the different roads you could go down, okay? You could also use this thing called a multi-criteria decision-making practice, okay? And this is systematically analyzing each individual requirement by some predefined conditions. If you cared about what's its value to the customer, what's its risk of getting done, what's its complexity, etc., the cost, all these things for each requirement can be like evaluated, given like a 1 to 10 scale. Oh, this is a super risky one, so give that a certain number. This is a really costly one, give that a number, and etc. And you have a combined score, right, for each requirement across the criteria to help you determine the best possible option, okay? So it's a way to evaluate each requirement based off some defined criteria that make a difference to you guys. And you could say, hey, this is something where we need speed. So its complexity and its risk, we're gonna rate those super high, and things that rank well on those categories are the ones we're most likely gonna do because we know the scenario of our project. So that's one way. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to call the ball. You got to make a decision. You could use voting, right? You could say, hey, we got to make a decision. Let's throw our votes in. Unanimity, majority, plurality, all these different methodologies to vote, right? Don't have to know the details. Just know we could vote on them. We could have an autocratic decision-making, like bang, gavel, that's you. Like individual makes a decision for the group. This is what we're doing, y'all. This is what it is. That's the autocratic decision-making. So regardless of how you get there, once you've defined this is what we are doing, we got to get everybody to understand this is what we're doing. So how do we do that? How would you take that big long list and then shimmy it down and say, hey, y'all, this is what we're actually going to deliver and why? Okay? So the document that you will create is called the scope statement. See the dude writing it out, right? It's clear. It's detailed. It's a written statement. It could be a couple paragraphs or a couple pages, right? It provides a detailed description of the project and the product scope, the major deliverables, the assumptions, constraints. It frames up to say, hey, basically it's saying this. We've done a lot of thinking. We've done a lot of, getting opinions in. This is what we're going to do. This project will do this. It won't do that. Here's why, given all these things. So people can read it and go, all right, I agree with most of it, but that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it's going to be. I'm cool. So it creates clear boundaries by summarizing what is and is not in the project. That's clear. Scope statement. So we're putting pen to paper, nailing it down, okay? Now the scope statement is the first of 3 components within your scope baseline. So there's 3 components. Let's visualize. Right at the top of that scope baseline, we got the scope statement. That's the first thing we did. We put it on paper. This is what we're doing, everybody. So we have the written version, scope statement. Is that enough? Now, there's 3 little things of the chart, the scope baseline. You can assume that, but really think about it. If we just write down, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing in a couple paragraphs or a couple pages, is that enough? Is that enough for the people to develop a schedule? Is that enough to develop all the activities, to nail down the cost, to plan everything, to blah, 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 all those details? No, dude, it's not enough. We got to visualize. We got to clarify all those details. Now that we know exactly, we got to blow it out. That's what we got to do. So that's what this third step is all about, create WBS. Now, create WBS is how we translate that scope statement into a visual diagram of all the work that's required, okay? And I nailed down another word, work required. Now, when I think of work, I think about sweating, like digging a ditch, like doing an action. That ain't the work that we're defined here. Work, in this sense, work breakdown structure, work means scope, okay? Work means scope. Work does not mean activities. In the ditch example, it would not be digging the ditch, it would be the done ditch. What it is, what it looks like, the angle on it, all those different things. So work means scope. Work does not mean the activities to get to the done state, okay? Said a different way, work is nouns. A people, place, or thing, right? That's what a noun is. What will be there at the end, okay? Now, if we think about the old car, the product scope, what did it say? The features and functions that characterize a product, service, or result. So it's not the guy has to turn the lug nut or whatever. It's that there is a lug nut that holds on the wheel. So it's what is the done state. That's the work, all right? Now let's take the example of our cool little car, all right? We could think about the scope being anti-lock brakes and like all the details around it, how quickly it needs to stop, its functionality, all those things. The power steering, the remote starting, the list could go forever, right? Now, just to review, the WBS for this car will say what will be produced, not how it's going to get produced. Big difference there, right? Now, the activities, the hows, the activities required to build it are defined when we're creating the schedule. And we'll talk about that in the next video. But right now, we got to figure out what we are building and all those details, okay? So, as we look at that create WBS, there's another word I want to nail down, a visual diagram. Scope statement is the written diagram. We need a visual representation. The way we do that is with a thing called the WBS, or work breakdown structure, okay? Now, like I see this picture, it's a visual hierarchical decomposition of the product scope. Those are fancy words. Let me say it in Scott's simple words. It's a picture that takes the big stuff and breaks it down into little stuff, progressively little junk as you go through. So you can get it to the bottom and say, oh, this is the thing I got to build that serves that helps build that, all the components as they radiate up. We can see at the top, it could be the car, and zoom, it goes from down there, all right? Now, as we break the big picture into the manageable components, we can see how it plays out, right? And the lowest level is known as the work package. We need to nail that down. We'll talk about it later. The work package. Now, let's run through a fun little example to help bring this WBS alive. Let's think about the car. Now, you're the project manager. You're leading a team to create a safe, affordable, all-electric car. Everything electric, right? Now, what's it got? It's got an electric motor, right? It's got super-duper charging capabilities. It's got power steering. It's got anti-lock brakes. It's got remote starting. It's got et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these things. Now, you have so many components to build and keep organized, all right? How do you keep it all set straight and organized? Well, you lead your team in creating this WBS. So you know that at the end of the day, it's probably going to look like this. Bang, it's going to be bigger than you even think. It looks like a Christmas tree, an org chart, and you got to think about what it's going to look like. But you ask yourself, where the heck do I even start? It's insanity. It makes me want to quit. Now, there's two common methods. One's called top down. You start with the big thing at the top and you work yourself radiating, decomposing down. The other one's you take all the little components and you build it up. There's more methods, but those are the two big ones, top down, bottoms up. So let's take the top down approach and let's go like we run this jank, all right? So what's the top? In the car, it's the car. That's the end of the day. If we had a magic wand, bing, the car would be there, right? Because that's what the scope is. And that's break the car down. And let's think about what goes into a car. And we already started talking about it. You didn't even know it, right? We said the electric motor, the charging capability, the power steering, the analog brakes, remote starting, the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I only showed 5 little boxes there because the paper's only so big. But you'd have a lot of those boxes that radiate there. Shoom, see how they're in there? There you go. Now, is that enough that people can take that? Oh, give me an electric motor. You're like, dude, give me some more, brother. And they need to break it down. Tell me the charging capability. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Break it down. So each one of these, you keep breaking it down till you break it down enough. Okay? So as we go through this and we break these down, we take each one of these and we break it down. Let's take power steering. Okay? Now, following the direction as we think about power steering, we got to align ourselves to what are the specific characteristics of that. The big boss might say, the power steering system must be 100% electric. I didn't know it wasn't, and an upgrade on existing competitors' technology, right? Because they went out and benchmark. We're going to beat them, right? We're going to do it better. We're going to be all electric, all those things. So you're like, okay, I got to get the team together. I got to break it down. I got to decompose it, they call it. Now, I don't know anything about power steering, but this dude does. And to help you with this example, I did some Googling and I watched this guy. And apparently there's a thing called electric power assisted steering, EPAS, they call it. Not on the PMP, but it just helps the conversation. So if the big boss said, take the existing technology, make it better, they'd have the EPAS system. And we'd say, whoa, we're going to come up with next gen technology. And this dude from Car Tech 101 at CNET, thanks dude, he talked to me about next generation technology as far as it comes with the system here, all right? And so your engineers would take these high-level components and it would break them down, the electric power steering system into the components. And the nice people at CNET already did it for me, okay? And we might at the beginning say the camera and processing module, that's a section of it. The electronic control unit, cool, that's how the signals go out. The clutch, all right, that's important. And then the steering angle actuator. Now, this is hearkening me back to engineering days. I kind of dig it. I kind of want to go back weirdly. But you're going to leverage all the experts to help you with this. You're going to add the power system component details to your WBS. So let's do it. Remember we had those 4 little things? Boom, there they go, dude. Who would have thunk it? So this thing is starting to take form. And as you think about like your engineers, your project people, all your team members, they all specialize, right? So like you get the nerds that know this stuff. And this is just like, pig and slop. They're loving this stuff, right? Like you got the camera, you got the electronic, all this other stuff, all the details there. It's beautiful. And as we go down, we take the electronic control unit and the clutch and all these things and start breaking them down. You keep on decomposing until you get to a point where your team feels it's broken down enough to reasonably estimate and manage the completion of the work to deliver that thing. And what did we call the bottom level of the WBS for 2 extra bonus points that don't count for anything? We call it the work package. So the lowest level of the WBS is the work package. And we can see as we go here, we started with build a cool economy car that's all electric and safe and junk. And we broke it down and we continued to break it down into all its components until the team says, whoa, 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 that's deep enough. We're going to talk about components within this little thing, the electronic control unit or whatever your example is. And we're going to figure out next in the scheduling neighborhood how we go about doing it. That's the cool part. This is what will be there. If you had a magic wand, a genie, and said, deliver this, they'd go, bing, there it is. But we don't have genies. We ain't got magic wands. We got teams. So we got to nail down what we want to set us up for the next little chunk, which is the schedule section, to figure out how the heck we're going to pull this off. And it's not like we do schedule and then just throw it to or we do scope and throw it to the schedule folk. That ain't the way it works. These work in tandem because dreams and details have to be collaborated to see what's feasible, time-wise, money-wise, etc.-wise. So we're building down to the work package level. And now if you think about it, this is just one little made-up example for a car and power steering. This thing would go sideways and down. It's going to look like a Christmas tree of awesome, right? That's what we got. So, bottom level is called the work package. It's the smallest amount of work for which cost and schedule can be estimated and managed. Put that in your brain, okay? So when you get the entire WBS built out and picture it wild, you're going to do what they call the 100% rule, okay? 100% rule says, let's look at the entire diagram top to bottom. Let's do a focus analysis and make sure that we didn't miss anything and we didn't duplicate anything, basically, all right? So all your work down to the bottom, you take the bottom level work package and you say, does this all support the next level up? Does it make sense? Okay, if it does, keep it going. Do all these make sense there? Okay, cool. All right. Did we duplicate anything? Did we miss anything? You're asking those things over and over. Then you're going to go roll it down again to make sure, you didn't find any holes in it. Make sure that nothing's left out and no extra work is completed in there, is nailed down in there, okay? So it's being comprehensive, because once we get it signed, so shall it be. That's what we have to do, okay? Now, let's look at a real WBS to deepen our perspective. One of our coaches, you know him, you love him, Matt Lewick, provided me this, all right? Now, this is for a design project. It visually organizes a part of a WBS. This is just, look at the top, it says number 3. This is part of it, but I need to make you see it, all right? For a design project. So it doesn't have to be building cars. This is creating designs. Each level, as we go down, increasing level of detail, all right? So at the top, we got the detailed design. We got to create that. Then we got the civil design, the landscape architecture package. We got all the first submission, all these different things that are related to the project. And all these down at the bottom, those are the work packages. Sweet. So like dudes in real life and dudettes are doing this. How cool is that? All right. Now, as we go through here, look up there. We got the detailed design. All right. Number 3. What do you think that number means? Okay. Number 3.1. Number 3.1.1.1, all right? And then 1.1.1, 1.1, I can read, look at me. All these numbers that go through there, what do you think that numbering system does? Well, it organizes the WBS, right? Otherwise, just a bunch of boxes on a page that we're proud of. But here we're saying, here is the hierarchy. Here's the numbering system, so we can keep it organized, right? Accurate organization, tracking, because we're going to develop schedules at, things that we need to do to deliver these things. Because that bottom level, that white little boxes right there, 1.1.1.1, goodness me, the site services and grading drawing, we got to figure out how are you going to do it? What are the tasks in a row? And we're going to tag them all to that, because people cost money, things cost money, pencils cost money, all that stuff costs money. So we got to figure out how much each one of those costs to build. Isn't that cool? It syncs them all together, all right? Now, the WBS, work breakdown structure, is the second component of the scope baseline. We're doing it, y'all. So we started with the scope baseline. We have the scope statement to build it out. We got the WBS. We got one more piece. Now, the WBS itself clearly shows how the scope decomposes in the visual form. You can see it with your eyes. But where do we put all those details that we talked about? Like I said, I think I technically said nitty gritty, super details, something like that. Where do we put those? Because if we look at this real WBS, there's no room to put those details. Heck, it's not even big enough to almost put the numbers on there. So where do we put them? In our back pocket? I don't have back pockets right now. No, like we need to know where we put these details because they matter. Where will we document? The $1 billion question is. The document is called the Work Breakdown Structure Dictionary. That's what it is, right? So the WBS Dictionary is a complementary document to the WBS. Kind of makes sense, WBS and WBS Dictionary. They see like brothers and sisters, right? And it provides the details. This is where the repository, all the details, the descriptions, the definitions, the information, all we need to know about that work package is in that WBS Dictionary, okay? So it stores all the details for every work package. Hey, remember that number system? This unique identifier, so we know this specific WBS item is 1.1.1. whatever, right? We got its name, we got its description, we got it who's responsible for delivering it and signing it off, right? What resource requirements? Give us some more details related to that. Give us the acceptance criteria. How important is that? It's double important, all right? What dependencies? Got to do this and got to do that, and they got to work together, right? What are the risks associated? What are the cost estimates? Now, you're not going to have the cost estimates now, but it's going to help create the model or the place where you do put them as you start to think about how we deliver this next. Okay, WBS Dictionary details. Cool. All right. Now, WBS Dictionary is the third component of the scope baseline. So let's review, all right, as we go through there. The scope baseline made of 3 things. Scope statement, written version of what we will do. WBS visual, look at it, eyes version of what we will do from the top to the bottom, decomposed out, with the bottom level being the work package. And the third component is the WBS Dictionary. The partner of the WBS has all the gritty details that the visual stuff leads to. If we do that, don't we have a pretty good understanding of what we're going to do and not do? How did we get there? Just took a lot of talking and, working through the details, but this seems logical, doesn't it? It's pretty darn cool. And if you got a big project that takes a heck of a lot of planning, a lot of coordination, you should be doing this. Yet again, my buddy Matt Lewick, you know him, you love him. He gets calls all the time from people like you who work in his companies, and he says, hey, they say, hey, can you help me out with this project? And he says, first thing always, he says, yo, I'd love to. Why don't you shoot me over your WBS? And you know what they never say? They never say, okay, I got it. They always say, oh, I didn't think I needed to do that. Or, oopsie, I was going to do that later. Or, is that important? And therefore, Matt, being the great teacher, being the great leader, being the great project manager and executive as he is, he thinks about, okay, now we got somebody. Now we can teach him and guide him. Because the people that have the WBS, have the scope statement, have the WBS dictionary, they don't call him. Not because they don't love him. It's because they're rolling, Jack. And so get that WBS going, get that WBS dictionary going, and you'll be on your way. Now, the question that we got to say is, will the big boss approve it? So we got to get the scope baseline approved. And don't wait till the end to get all three done. Get the opinion while you're going, right? Little prototypes, if you will, of the baseline as you're doing it to get their approval, the sponsor's approval, okay? Now, after you get that scope baseline approval, be diligent. And we want to emphasize this. You got to be super diligent to fight the devil, which is known as scope creep, okay? Now, scope creep, like this house that I show in this picture, it didn't get started with ivy all over the walls, but one little day at a time, the ivy grew and grew and grew. And now we got a house that looks green, all right? It just happened over time. Same thing with scope creep. You don't accept scope creep. It just happens little bit by little bit by little bit. And before you know it, you're doing way more than you ever thought. And it's not approved. And it's eating up all your budget. And it's slowing you down. And whatever. It's terrible. Okay? So we got to fight against it like it's going to kill us. So in our example, if we get approval to build this thing and somebody calls and says, oh, dude. You know me. You trust me. I got this idea that's going to make you $1 billion. They're going to love you, bro. Just do this little thing, right? Oh, no. I have one quick idea. Let's just do it, bro. Let's just do it. Or they'll call you back and says, I just talked to the customer. They told me this. They're going to love it. Go add this little feature. It's going to be amazing. You end up, if you take those calls, I'm not saying turn the phone down. I'm saying handle it the right way. But if you take them and you just do it without getting approval, you're going to end up building this. Now, this is a sexy car. But that ain't what the big boss asks for. So while it might be a cool looking car, it ain't going to serve the need. And you know who's going to get popped for it? You, my friends. So scope creep, that is what we fight against. We got to be disciplined. We got to diligently follow our change control process. We nail down the scope so that we all know what we're going to do. Building stuff is hard enough, but building stuff and extra stuff is double hard. Because we don't have a finish line. So we got to stay with finish line. But we follow the change control process. And it'll help reduce our scope creep risk. We got to be on it, okay? Now, you have it defined. What do you do next? You got that baseline. It's in your hands. You're proud. Man, you're sweating, bro. Woo! It's a lot of work to get there. The big boss is pumped. What do you do next? Now, what we got to do while we do it is we got to figure out how we're going to deliver this car. You're not going to do this like scope and then figure it out. It's like at the same time, really, right? But the way we're going to explain it is we're taking those work packages and we're exploding them out again to say, hey, experts, how do I deliver this component within the power steering, within the whatever? What materials do I need? Who do I need? When do I need them? Whatever. I'm getting ready to go teach it right now. Before I do that, let's finish this video, and I'll see you in the next one. We're killing it. Keep going.